You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Today on the program, our conversation is going to be on the importance of national productivity in forging inclusive growth. Now, we know that the 24th edition of the World Economic Forum Africa meeting comes up next month in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and it is the first time that Nigeria is hosting it. And the theme for this year is forging inclusive growth and creating jobs. And so in the last couple of days, we've actually been looking at various sectors that actually can key into this theme, that is forging inclusive growth and creating jobs. And today on the program, as I said, our conversation is going to be on national productivity. We're looking at some of the strategies that Nigeria has in place and what they can also learn from some of their peers that will actually be at the World Economic Forum Africa holding in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, next month. And so I'm being joined on the program to have this conversation this morning by two gentlemen, one a business coach and the other the president of a School of Productivity. Remy Dairo is actually the president, School of Productivity. He's on my far left. And to my immediate left is Bashir Muse. He's a business coach. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Good morning. Happy Easter.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, when we talk about national productivity, what does it mean and why is it really important?
Okay. Bash, you want to start?
Well, national productivity is an output that we look out for in a nation that, okay, how productive is this nation is. But to start with, we don't talk about an output without looking at the input of what the nation is really putting into the economy to determine exactly what will be the output. So talking about national productivity, we're looking at how productive these nations is. For example, as a nation, what have we been doing in the last 50 years of our independence? Determine exactly where we are going to be today in the face of other nations. So, and like I always tell people, as a business coach, I look at it from the one angle particularly. The mindset of every Nigerian will determine our skill set before we determine exactly what we are going to be doing. That will determine exactly our national productivity index.
Okay, so now, Remy, in light of what he said, how would you assess Nigeria's productivity strategy?
All right. I say this. I said the quality or the way we quantify the productivity of a nation is not by what the nation is producing. It's by the capacity of the nation in line with what it's producing. Therefore, if the nation has a capacity to produce and is producing lesser than the capacity, then it's not productivity. It's not maximum productivity, as the case may be. Therefore, I see national productivity as the maximization of the variances or the factors of productivity coming to a maximum level. Then we can say this is the national productivity of a nation. Sometimes we come up with a GDP to judge that, and I disagree, because GDP is just it's a part of the aggregate of a country productivity. There are other salient factors of productivity in the nation that is not considered productivity. There are people who also have the capacity to produce, but they are not getting the result because they are not inclusive in the GDP calculation, as the case may be.
So you're mentioning GDP calculation, and
Yes.
we just did a rebasing of our GDP.
Right.
So in light of that, how does that not also affect our productivity outlook?
I was reading through the Mr. President's goodwill message on Easter, and I was saying, he said we are doing very well in a good economy in Africa. He said because Nigerians are hardworking and they do, but there are many Nigerians that have the capacity to do much more, but they are doing lesser, or they are not even staying at all. So I said the GDP is not the original or the sure aggregate of the capacity of a nation. So a nation GDP is not the totality. I'm saying it is when the capacity of a nation or the variance of productivity are maximally put to use. There are many unemployed graduates. How can we now say this is the GDP of the country? There are many people who have gone to school who are looking for a job and they are not employed. They are not putting their brain to work. They are not putting what they've learned in school to work. Then where is the productivity we're talking about? So national productivity is much more than the GDP. It's the aggregate of the capacity of a nation to deliver what they are meant to deliver for the nation.
Okay, so you said GDP is not the totality of a nation.
Yes,
it is a
please.
capacity to deliver. So I still want to know
Okay.
what other parameters is used to actually calculate the productivity of a country. In this case, Nigeria.
All right, in Nigeria, one of the statistics it says 80% of Nigerian youths are unemployed. That is 80% potential capacity waiting. Where is that coming in? And out of that 80%, we have 20% that are working, okay, that are employed. There are 10% in our research in the School of Productivity. 10% of that 20% are underemployed. They are working not according to their capacity. Somebody have a BSc certificate, he has a first degree certificate, and is working with OND or a school certificate. And then we are calculating that GDP. So I am saying that the quality of a GDP is the aggregate of the capacity of a nation into the economic sense or the economic capacity that we, aggregate to the GDP we are talking about. So I'm talking about the capacity, potential, and then the aggregation.
Okay, so Bashir, if you can, add to that, if
Okay,
you will.
well, basically,
still talking about the calculation. How do you calculate a country's productivity?
Well, productivity, like I said, is a function of what the output we are looking out for as a nation. And looking at it, if you remember, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we had a National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy that was scaled down from the among the 8 goals of the MDG, which is to reduce poverty, and we came up with needs. From needs, it was scaled down to states. We have SEED, State Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy, down to leads, which is local government. All of these policy and strategy that we have developed over time, we've not been able in any way to implement them to letter. And in calculating this GDP, there are many other factors. One of the key factors, the engine growth of a nation, is the small and medium enterprises. They've been neglected for too long in this country that nothing really in tangible form can we say have been done to support the small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. Of recent, something like Yowin came up like 2-3 years ago.
And Shopee.
And Shopee. But how much can we say in terms of impact that this actually done on Nigerian youths or SME, for example? I was lucky to part of the Yowin as an independent monitor. I monitor some businesses in Kwara, Nasarawa, and see what they were doing with the 10 million naira they were giving. Someone who has never done anything with 1 million naira, he has 10 million naira before him. It's not the fund. The fund is always there. It's about the capacity, like he said. Like I always say, it's not even the capacity matter wholly. It's about the mindset. If I see 1 million naira in my laps today, in my pocket today, I have some mindset that, okay, breakthrough has come in the world we have as a youth, who are likely the majority of our population as a nation. So these people we need to develop their capacity, but start with their mindset that they are part of this nation. Talking about the inclusive growth, the SMEs are part of Nigeria development. Talking about we can calculate GDP. GDP calculation is not a new thing. They do that almost every 5 years or 10 years in UK and other countries. So doing that in Nigeria should not be something it's not a fanfare thing. Okay. It's about how inclusive it is for everybody, other key players in the industry. Okay,
Bashir, comment on this if you will.
Right.
You said the mindset has so much to do with the
skill set.
The skill set.
Exactly.
Now, in trying to change the mindset, how can they change the mindset? Who should be changing the mindset in such a way that we'll begin to see the output, desired output that we look for? Because in the calculation of productivity, you say it's output plus input equals to productivity.
Exactly.
So the mindset is the input. So how do you calculate in such a way that you begin to see a skill set that is the output? Okay,
for example, why somebody go to university, study engineering, and find himself working at the counter as a teller? It's a function of his mindset. All he's looking for is like this Maslow hierarchy of need of motivation. He's working at the basement level, which is I need to feed myself first. For him to be able to perform at the level we are in. For example, a lot of funds come into this country, and he can attest to that, as in Remy. He can attest to that because he just came back from UK of recent, and a lot of funds were even being said that they are available for people who are ready to do some stuff.
That's people in the informal sector. That's SMEs.
SMEs, for example. Right? But this SME we are talking about, I mean, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg or like the Google boys, they came out with the idea I want to make money on a quick run, as we have in Nigeria. That is the way I'm talking about as a mindset. It's about value you are going to create first. It's after you have created the value, people can appreciate that value and they are willing to pay you for it. So if I go to university, study for 5 years, and I was looking for a bank job with a B engine, what am I doing there for the first? The mindset is about I need money. So such a person can never be much as productive, even in the banking sector. You need to start all afresh, to start ICANN, to get into CIBN and all that before you can even be relevant in the banking industry. He has not, going to school, you have been conditioned for 4 good years to be an engineer. Now you are working as a teller. It's a different mindset. It's all there for the money. That's all. Over time, you might get inducted into the banking world and become a good banker. But initially, he has gotten it wrong because, and where do you take that back to? The government. Infrastructure is not there. Basic things of life. If you and I have good access road, electricity, and we can have food on our table, everybody in this country are very active. They are very active and they are willing to do a lot. But when you look at the basic things of life, we can't run away from it. A lot of people have gone through so many things, but what comes first is the reality for them is I need to feed first. So they will go for what is available, not what they are capable of doing.